Watching and waiting to see how Donald Trump's foreign policy takes shape. Let's bring in Joel Rubin. He is president of Washington Strategy Group and a former deputy assistant secretary of state under Barack Obama. He really made foreign policy kind of a big part of this campaign, saying he was going to build a wall on day one between the United States and Mexico. He alienated allies by saying NATO was obsolete, kind of welcoming Brexit, not happy with the European Union. I mean, the list goes on and on. What do we see from his foreign policy, and is there any way to really tell what we're going to see?
Thank you, Mike. At this moment, it's in formation, as you say. Some would call it incoherent. We were looking for signals about where President Trump's foreign policy would go through the last week and a half during confirmation hearings in the Senate for his Secretary of Defense and state nominees, UN ambassador, but there were no coherent themes to really grab onto. Several core ideas related to fighting Islamic terrorism, engaging, dealing with China, roping in China perhaps, and also a lot of questions about Russia. So it's still in formation, which is a bit troubling considering all the threats we face.
Well, and let's start with Russia. There's been so much written and talked about when it comes to this relationship, the election, all of that. Where do we see that relationship going? And I spoke to a couple of people in the last couple of days who said that really, in some respects, it's good if there's a good relationship between the U.S. and Russia, because there's only so much you can do with the allies to really affect some of these problems in the world, Syria being one of them.
It's clear Russia is a major player currently in global geopolitics in the Middle East with Europe. And the Obama administration also engaged Russia on a variety of initiatives. A nuclear arms agreement known as New START, the Iran nuclear deal, attempting to work with Russia on a diplomatic outcome for Syria. So engaging Russia is not necessarily a problem. The challenge, however, is will Russia do what we're asking? And where President Trump, President-elect, soon-to-be President Trump, has been going on Russia is to say, we'll let bygones be bygones, and we're not going to worry, and we'll give you what you want potentially in exchange for some things that we want, maybe some sanctions relief on Ukraine, and allow Ukraine to fall into the Russian orbit, which of course very much scares our European allies, our NATO partners. And so engaging Russia, again, is not controversial, but on what grounds and on what principles? That's the key question.
You worked in the Obama administration. You know the executive has to work with the legislative. That's not always easy. We see almost 70 members of Congress boycotting this event from the Democratic Party. But even within the Republican Party, he picked a lot of fights with Republicans throughout this campaign. Can he work with Congress?
Well, this is really becoming clear in these confirmation hearings in the Senate in particular already, and in Russia in particular. There's bipartisan concern about Russia's role in the world. And in the confirmation hearings, we saw Republican members, Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, men who he defeated for the nomination, being very hard on Trump's nominees and not willing to give them a pass on the question of past relations with Russia and where President Trump may go. So Congress will be asserting itself and its power. It is led by Republicans. There will be a lot in common, but they're also not going to be a doormat and just allow President Trump to do whatever he says he wants to do.
Joel Rubin, thanks for finding the traffic coming in and seeing us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.